Welcome to Nomads of the Noetic with Trace Pirtle and Randel Brown. Today, we're going to discuss humility and confidence. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our channel at Old Professors to catch all of our broadcasts.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Trace and Randy again here, Nomads of the Noetic. Today, I've got to share with you, Randy, and you with the audience. I've got a little bit of an edge. Right, most of the time I'm coming in, I've got a passion for whatever the topic is that we're talking about. Today, honestly, it's a little more of an edge. So I'm just giving y'all forewarning on this. If you don't want to hear a little bit of venting, a little rant, whenever you see me show up, just go ahead and fast forward and get to the, to the rational side, which is what Randy is probably going to present. So anyway, that's just a little
Fair
forewarning.
enough.
Yeah, fair enough. So today, Randy and I wanted to talk about something that we don't see a whole lot of these days, and that is humility and confidence. So, Randy, as we're getting into these two different concepts of being humble and at the same time being confident, what are your initial thoughts, on these two qualities that we should all probably possess?
Well, Trace, the first thing I think when you say those two words together, the first thing is they're not opposites.
Okay.
Number one, they do and should coexist in the same person. And in fact, they should really thrive on each other. A person with confidence that should lead to some real humility. It's kind of like we spoke one time about right speech.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the fact that when a person makes a practice of telling the truth and telling it when it's needed, that the outcome of that is people tend to listen to you.
Yeah.
Because you don't speak unless it's necessary and when it's important to do so. I think the same thing's true about the person who's confident and humble, because that person is not going to go around telling everyone that, for instance, I know how to do that.
Yeah.
Or I can do this correctly. The person that's humble and confident is simply going to step in and do it. And people are either going to join in or step back and let them do it because they're going to intuitively know that that person is going to do it right.
Yeah.
Or they wouldn't have stepped up to perform. So that's what it strikes me when you think about those two things in conjunction with each other in that person. It's interesting if you look up humility in the dictionary,
Mm-hmm.
because it really kind of indicates a level of peace
Mm-hmm.
and contentment. I like the way it's described as contentment.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not downtrodden.
Right.
It's contentment.
Yeah. Yeah. When this part of this conversation, our coffee shop conversation here, came from being relatively new back on social media. And so, if we look at social media as being a microcosm, or as just a very representative sample of the population, then I see an awful lot of almost overconfidence, right? And not a whole lot of humility. So the first thing that I thought about was kind of what you're talking about is that we should have this interplay between the two. That's what we would consider to be healthy, right? Almost like the yin and the yang, right? The Tai Chi symbol. Even though they may not be opposites, one can certainly blend into the other, right? And so, I mean, if we look at humility as being maybe a little more yin and confidence a little more yang, right? They kind of merge and they blend. And to me, what keeps them in balance is wisdom. Wisdom is what keeps the balance between the yin and the yang, or between humility and confidence. But even, if we look at it even on a continuum, and let's just say that they are not totally dichotomous, but there's a continuum from, full humility on one end and then confidence on the other. We've got to know where we're too much on one side and when we need to bring it back again. Would you agree with that part?
Yeah.
Right. And that's the component that I see that is missing right now is we'll call them a master of anything, anyone who is accomplished realizes that as accomplished as they still don't know everything. So there's that humbleness, right? And the peace, right? That comes along with knowing what they know, but also knowing what they don't know. And so you get this balance, right, between the confidence and the humility, and it's coming from a point of wisdom, and that's something that I think would be interesting to not only teach as we learn things, but just to be able to see more of that out there, a little more humility, a little more humbleness, right? So that's part of my edge is seeing that there's that society in general is basically encouraging and enabling this mindset of just be confident in what you're doing, even though you just began it, right? So,
Right.
what are your thoughts on that? I got a couple other things.
Trace, I, I've been acting like a carpenter and redoing this little house behind my house. And I want to give you an example of my humility and how it interplays with um, whether or not I'm confident. Uh, Yesterday, I was actually, this has happened every day I've been out there doing something, but yesterday is a good example of it because I was doing something that to me looked very hard. And I know somebody that has ever worked in construction would have done any of these things I've done in a flash with great confidence and wouldn't have had any question about anything that I've done. But for me, it's all new. And I am very confident about some things because I look at something and I think, well, this makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'll just do it this way. And anyway, so I was putting up some brackets that are antiques and tying them into the roof structure so it would look very nice and also provide support. And anyway, I got finished and it looked really good, and the pride was starting to seep in there a little bit. And I sent a picture to Lupe, and Lupe sends me back, "It looks beautiful. You're a genius." And of course, my humility is slipping away, and
Mhm.
my pride is growing, and I'm thinking, I am kind of a genius. I did that like nothing. And then I immediately turned to do something rather simple, actually very simple, that I know both mathematically and manually how to do this, which was to cut a piece of wood at an angle to fit another piece of trim to fit it to finish out this little project. So I cut it and I screwed it up there, and it looks terrible because it's not cut right. Well, it's not cut right because I didn't calculate that the board is was warped, and I had to kind of hold it in place to get the miter saw to cut it, and so
Yeah,
the angle was just kind of a guess. But I was confident when I was cutting it.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
about right.
You had already calculated for the curve of the blade,
You
right?
bet, yeah.
Yep.
So I nailed it back. I nailed it up there on the wall, and of course, it looks terrible. Uh, so then my humility came back all in a flash, thinking, oh, I really don't know anything. And in fact, the things that I'd done just before, the truth is they just happen to work good. And sometimes that happens. And I think sometimes we get suckered by our own luck,
Yeah,
or good fortune might be a better way to put it, because I just happened to do something that just worked. Not
yeah,
because I knew a lot, but I picked the right strategy to do it out of the possible ones that were there, and it worked. So all of a sudden, my confidence grew,
yep,
my pride grew because it looked good when I was done, and I let my humility slip, and then I was less cautious on the next easier thing. The deal is, I'm working with a piece of wood. I can go out there and rip that down, and what I've lost is that piece of wood. But you know what, though? Here's the difference for me. I refuse to take that piece of wood down, and the reason why is because when I walk back out there today or any other day, I want to remember that I really don't know how to do this.
yeah,
I need to approach this every step of the way with humility. Have confidence in the fact that, yes, I can figure it out, or in the things that I know how to do, yes, I can do those.
yeah,
But in the things that I don't, look, find expert advice, whatever I need to do to figure it out. But let my mistake or error, let my mistake continually remind me that I need to seek the wise guidance of others
yeah,
when I don't know. That's confidence.
right,
Confidence is knowing when you need the advice and the expertise of someone else to help you hit the mark.
right,
Confidence is also knowing when you got this.
yeah,
And so and I think sometimes people get so confident that when somebody comes in and tries to give you the help, you say, no, I got this. And you turn away from what you really needed, which was somebody to give you that advice in that moment.
yeah,
That's somebody that's overly confident.
yeah,
Sometimes, yeah, people give you advice and you don't need it. But you know what? That advice was free. You can
right,
take it or leave it anyway. No reason to be unkind. Take it, consider it. If it's not right for you, that's okay. But hey, they may also present to you a different way that may be just as good or may not, but it's still an alternative that may work out better in the next situation than the one you're in right now. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that I think that humility can come from several places.
yeah,
Sometimes your mistake brings that humility, as long as you remember it.
yeah,
I mean, if you I used to be as a teacher, I was not very, I didn't evaluate myself very well, meaning I wasn't very critical of myself.
hmm,
I figured once it's over, it's over. You know, go
yeah,
back, you can do, you got tomorrow. Well, then your teaching doesn't improve.
yeah,
Uh, you need to critically evaluate what you do to see if there is a way for improvement. And so because humility can come from you just looking at yourself and what you're doing.
yeah,
Um, and realizing that no, you're not the pinnacle
Right.
yet.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I won't be or can't be. And it also doesn't mean that I'm not good,
Yeah.
because that doesn't mean that. But it doesn't mean that I shouldn't go back out there today and re-examine those brackets.
Yeah.
Look at them and see, was there a better way to do that? Will I do it different next time?
Yeah.
Or will I stick to this way? Because that's a good way to do it.
Right.
And notice I didn't say perfect.
Yeah. And and Randy, see, to me, this is what moves the line in the sand for me a little bit, when it comes to having an edge versus having a passion for something. Okay. Your example, I think, is a perfect example of the learning process. Okay. But the thing is, you are learning and making a mistake and being able to iterate on that mistake if you wanted to on your own property.
Yeah,
Okay. It's not like you were saying, hey, look, I really don't know what I'm doing here. Right. I know I've got these experts over here that can help me. I don't really know what I'm doing, but you know what? I'm going to go ahead and hang my shingle as a handyman, and I'm going to come and charge you money to make my mistakes and to iterate, right? And give me my few $1,000s. No, make your mistakes on your own place, right?
yeah,
That's where we learn. And it kind of goes back to what you were just talking about, is sometimes we have not enough humility, right? A little too much confidence. Do you remember Garrison Keller?
yeah.
Okay, Prairie Home Companion.
Right, right.
Exactly. And remember his thing, back in I guess it was the 80s. I started listening to him in the 90s.
Yeah,
But he talked about, where the women are strong, this is Lake Wobegon, Minnesota,
yeah,
right? And where all the women are strong, the men are good looking, and all of the children are above average,
yes.
right? I see this, I mean, it's just everywhere you look. So many people are suffering from the Lake Wobegon effect, right? It wasn't just in this mythical town in Minnesota. Now it's pervasive. People do have much more confidence in their abilities that's not substantiated by anything other than their
Right.
beliefs, right? And I think our generation, Randy, yours and mine, as we were coming up through, in the public education system, you know, in the classroom, in counseling, in psych, whatever the role was, we were all kind of sucked into this mindset of, we've got to encourage people's self-confidence. And subsequent to that came in everybody gets a trophy. And so now we've got this Lake Wobegon effect where everybody thinks they're above, the mean. Well, they're not, right? So I think that's something, the Lake Wobegon effect is contributing to this sense of I am overly confident. I can charge people even though I really don't have any competence or qualifications. And I don't have to remain humble, in the process.
Right.
That to me again is psychologically damaging, and it can be hurtful to the people that might be hiring somebody who doesn't really know what they're doing, and they don't know what they don't know. So potential
Well,
for
I mean,
yeah,
it would be like me trying to sell the video of how to hang up these big antique brackets
right,
and wanting people to follow my advice. Well, I want to tell you, Trace, I don't want them to do it because they may cut their fingers off.
right,
There's a lot of things that could happen.
yeah,
And so, no, I 100% agree with what you're saying. We did grow up in a time where this really was pushed on us
yeah,
in such a way that we could do anything we wanted to do.
yeah,
You and I have had this discussion,
right,
and I do have that sense in me was given to me by my mother.
Hmm.
That belief, that irrational belief that I could do anything that I want, even though there's no evidence to indicate that I can.
Yeah.
I'm thankful for that belief
Yeah.
because it gives me confidence to try things.
Yep.
I'm also smart enough to realize that uh, while I'll be willing to try something, I'll also know when to stop.
Yeah.
And I'll go one further than that. I also know when not to try something.
Yeah.
And we had this discussion about climbing Mount Everest.
Yep.
Say, I do believe that I could climb it.
Yeah.
That's different than me really knowing that I could climb it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you understand the difference in that, but I know that I can't climb it. I'm not an idiot. I get it. I know that I would be dead before I got to base camp. I know that.
Right.
That doesn't change what my mother gave me, which was an irrational belief. But the difference is, I understand there's a difference. I
Yeah.
understand that that's irrational belief.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what we need to really filter through is to understand that much of what we were given was irrational.
Yeah.
And it's not bad to create a drive in people. That's great. But understand that a belief that you can do anything is irrational.
Yeah.
It is
And
just
okay.
simply irrational.
So here's the thing, and this is where I agree with your mom, and I agree with what we're talking about. All right. It it's good to have that sense of self, to know that we have an actualizing tendency to do more than what sometimes we believe that we're capable of, almost to the point where we feel like, hey, it's an irrational belief to think that I could actually go and train to scale Everest, where it becomes more rational, right? And this is the part again that I have a little edge on, is that if you and I say, okay, our goal is to go and climb Mount Everest for the first time. Okay, fine. That in and of itself, to me, is neither rational or irrational, right? What comes next is what's either rational or irrational.
Yes.
If we say we're just going to go out there and take off tomorrow, right? I agree with you. That's totally irrational. We're probably not even going to get to base camp, right? On the other hand, if we said, hey, look, we're going to train for this thing and we're going to get the biggest, baddest Sherpa that's been up to the top and back down again, that's that guy's livelihood. Okay. Now all of a sudden it's becoming a little more rational, right? Because we've got the right guide. But what's happening right now out there in the social media world, right? And everybody hanging a shingle is the cat that's sitting there on his sofa, and he's just gotten through reading High Adventure by Edmund Hillary, and he says, "Hey, I've read Hillary's book, right? I'm going to go out there and I'm going to charge you guys $20,000, and I'll be your Sherpa, I'll be your guide." Well, that's where it becomes irrational again. But there are people who are gullible enough to say, well, you got $20,000, you've read Hillary's book. Yeah, let's go. Right? That's where people fall off mountains,
Yeah.
you know. And again, for our culture to be able to say, hey, look, you don't have to be a legitimate Sherpa. All you have to be is one step ahead of the person that you're trying to lead, in the expedition. I think that's incredibly dangerous. And we talk about the imposter syndrome. Well, the imposter syndrome, like you probably know, went back to 1978. That original research was done in 78, and it was on high performing, high functioning women who were hitting the glass ceiling in the corporate world, right? That's where imposter syndrome was setting in. Now we've dummied this thing down to, well, hey, look, you're just experiencing, imposter syndrome because you really should feel empowered that you've read Hillary's book, right? It's insane,
Yes.
right? And you can see, you can kind of sense my edge.
Yes, it is insanity.
Because
By the
people are,
way, let's just go to Kathmandu and call it enough.
no kidding. That's it. Exactly. Yeah.
That's high enough right there.
Yeah, yeah. Go, just hey, just go to the pub, the
That,
Kathmandu pub.
that's right. Yeah, we don't need to go further.
No.
You make a good point, Trace. My concern about this topic, my concern is the people that fall for it,
Yeah.
because it, while the example of going to Mount Everest seems extreme, I don't believe the outcome of what can happen with people on social media is any different.
Yeah. Right.
I do think there is life and livelihood at stake. There is definitely mental health at stake.
Yep.
Uh, there's lots of ways to talk about it. In the Buddhist tradition, they think about, the teacher will show up when you need him.
Yep.
The Hindu tradition is something like that too, actually.
Yeah.
Uh, but I've always had a little bit of a hard time when the teacher uh, comes uh, uh, looking for you off your mailing list or whatever and offers you the chance of a lifetime for this much money.
Yeah.
Uh, Whenever it gets converted into money, it seems to be problematic. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't things that are worth paying for.
Right.
And I've had this discussion with you too, Trace.
Yeah.
If there are things like learning to play the piano, then I don't know how to play
Yeah.
and I want to know how to play. Okay, I could spend a lifetime trying to learn on my own and probably would. Or I could pay somebody for a program that's systematic and can teach me.
Yeah.
I'll pay for that. And then it's on me whether or not I do what that program says.
Yeah.
Then it's on me. They provide me the stuff I need. It's on me whether or not I do what it says. I don't have a problem with that kind of thing. I do think there's a lot of hype and a whole bunch of sales
Yeah.
uh, crap that goes with any of that stuff. You got to be careful about what you buy into on any of it. But there are things out there that are worth it for people,
Right.
depending on what you want to do. I've only looked at the ones really closely that have to do with learning music.
Hmm.
I still think the best teacher of music is somebody that can sit with you and teach you.
Yeah.
That's not the world that we live in. So, if there are things out there that are worthy, but there are 10 times as many that are worthless.
Yeah.
That's just the truth of it.
Yeah.
And I hate to really tell people that, but you have to be cautious about what you invest in. And when it comes to mental health issues,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is the time when you are the most cautious.
Right.
You're not okay, Trace, it didn't matter whether I ever learned to play the piano or not. I will still be okay. But if I'm dealing with crises in my life, it does matter.
Yeah. Yeah. This is something that this is a good point. All right. If someone wants to hang a shingle out there and talk about how you can be fitted for the right running shoe, okay? And this is the process that I went through and looking at ASICS and Reebok and Nike and all these other ones. And I'm gonna help you to find the right running shoe. Okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? We've talked about this before. What's the worst thing that can happen if you're wrong in your assessment, right? Well, I just, my feet hurt, right? And so I have to go out and buy another pair of running shoes. We start talking about other psychodynamic things, just like you're mentioning, right? Where truly someone's life could be at stake, right? Then all of a sudden the stakes, right, are higher. And so I've had this conversation not too long ago, again, maybe while I'm still a little edgy. But we've got a lot of people out there on social media that are saying, I dropped out of college. And of course, because, some of the other gurus dropped out. And they said, there's no value in those degrees and it's a big waste of money. Okay, well, let's talk about that. You and I will be the first ones, right, to admit that this is where the humility comes in. We know what people say about the BS, the MS, the EDS, and the PhD, right? For our audience that hasn't heard this, we know that it stands for bullshit, more shit, educational shit, and piled higher and deeper. And if you go on and you do postdoctoral stuff, it's even more higher and deeper. All right. So, yeah, there may be some truth to that. There are a lot of things that we learned in our undergraduate and our graduate programs that maybe we paid for that we probably really didn't need to, right? But what we got from that was a process, right? And we got a fund of knowledge that we had to generalize as we were going along. And then we had our $100,000 or whatever the price tag was. But I'll tell you what, if somebody says, you know what, I dropped out of Psych 101 in my first semester of college. Now I've gone through a 6-week life coaching program, right? That I paid 20,000 bucks for. And then now, because I've got all of this worldly experience, right, and the credential, now I want you to pay $100,000, right, for a year of coaching. And they do it with a straight face. That becomes a little bit annoying and insulting. If you're going to talk with somebody that's 14 years old, you may be able to get away with it. But sometimes people are actually using you and I as their avatar for who they would like to have as their client, right? That to me is just, who's preparing people like that? We didn't go through our programs to be prepared to do that, did we? I know I didn't. Right? No. Right. So, there is as much BS, MS, EDS, and PhD out there in the rest of the world as there is in higher education.
Yes,
Right?
definitely.
But to fail to recognize that is again going back to well, I mean it's beyond confidence. It just kind of defies common sense. Forget about degrees and education and experience. I mean, it just defies logic and common sense.
I agree.
So
I think,
yeah, go ahead.
well, I think I want to just, to me, the issue is we want to express um, caution
Yeah,
when people are looking on social media. In fact, I mean, I'll even say, as the Buddha was reported to have said, "You don't believe what I say, try it."
yeah,
But I mean, we know so much is phony,
yeah,
that we know. And I think everybody intuitively knows that. You watch something on social media and you look at it and you go, well, that's not real.
yeah,
You know it already. I mean, it's you already know, and inside you're laughing.
Yeah.
But see, they put hooks in all of it, and they're what happens is it catches you when you're in the right moment,
Yeah.
when you need that specific thing, and it hooks you,
Right.
and then all of a sudden you have hope.
Yeah.
Be careful
Yeah.
about where you put your hope.
Yeah. That's right.
That's all my caution would say.
Yeah. And and with because with a skillful enough copywriter, um, that person could write copy for me where I could sell you my piano program, right? But just because you might buy that, it's too easy to verify whether I'm qualified or not, right? You say, hey, sit down here next to me and play something, from, by Chopin. I don't know. Was he a composer, a piano composer? I don't know.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so, right? So, I mean, I have no idea how to play the piano. And it's too easy to verify whether somebody actually knows what they're talking about, right? You get somebody that's a personal trainer, you can figure out in a hurry if they know what they're talking about. Part of it is by how they look, right? And you can tell a Sherpa, right, from a poser. But a lot of people are kind of gravitate to the woo-woo side of psychology, right? Where it's easy to BS, MS yourself and PhD yourself, right? Into having other people believe, that you can do something that you have no qualification, no training, no experience to back it up.
Yep.
It's just if you can bullshit your way through it. And so I think, in terms of the old law of karma, right? What goes around does come around. People will find out, but I would rather they find out before they go down that path, of lack of character, lack of integrity. Catch yourself first, figure out what you really can do well because there's so many things, so many skills and talents that we do have. Hey, capitalize on those, then hang your shingle. So that's kind of my rant, Randy. I appreciate you listening to it as I always have. Not too many times when we've had coffee with this kind of rant, but hey, it's about time,
I think it's a cautionary rant.
right? Yeah,
I think it's timely, and I think that we leave with that idea that watch what you do, watch what you believe, but also know that there's good out there.
yes,
You just need to look for it.
yeah,
And there's good people, and there's people with good intent,
yeah,
and there's people with good stuff to offer.
yeah,
Look for them and just scroll right by the rest of them.
right,
I
yeah.
don't know. You swipe left or right. I don't know which way you swipe, but
That's
whichever
it.
way you swipe,
Yeah,
swipe them away.
wipe it away, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And who knows, because of all of this stuff, I may get back off of social media again. I mean, our Facebook groups, are there. That's one thing, right? But some of the other ones, if I'm having to spend too much time with cognitive reframing of my own, then I know there's something wrong with it. So
I
maybe it'll be time to just pass by and, you know,
understand.
yeah. All
It'd
right,
be
man.
interesting to set up an account and only post and never look at it.
Yeah,
But every once in a while you'd have to look to see what actually happens. That'd be an
right.
interesting research study.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have to think about that.
Sounds good. Sounds good. All right, man.
All
Thanks for
right,
your
Trace.
time. All of you.
Many
All right.
blessings.
Likewise.
Next
Adios.
next time.